Hi, I'm Machin, and today we're in my studio. We're going to learn about assembling one of these guys, which I affectionately call Pelican Pitchers, because I like the nice gullet on them that reminds me of pelicans. So yesterday I threw the pot, the body of it, and I cut the section out that the spout will go into. And this is leather hard consistency, which means that I can pick it up and move it around and I'm not going to dent it, but it also hasn't started to change colors yet or dry out too much. And then I also pull the handle, which will attach. I like to put this big ball of clay because then you can just sort of sit it down wherever you want and it starts to establish that curve of the handle. And then I also made a slab spout that we will be putting into the area where I cut out. So I scored in here, which just means making little marks. You can use a pin tool or a serrated rib. And then this guy gets curled up like a burrito. And I put slip in only here. I do not put it on the spout part, just at the cutout. And then this gets slipped right in here. And I leave a little bit hanging out on the interior, and that's where it will get really sealed on. And then I compress this joint from the inside. You can see the excess slip is getting squeezed out all the way around. And then on the interior, I take my thumb and I compress the very edge of this and smear it all the way into the piece. And that creates a really nice joint. I've never had a problem with these spouts cracking. I have definitely, occasionally do have handles cracking, but I've never had a problem with this design and the spout cracking. So that seems to work pretty well. So I compress all the way around really well. Now you'll notice on the finished piece, this edge gets curled down a little bit. And I need to wait a minute. I'll do it a little bit here, but I'm going to need to wait till it's a little firmer to do the complete curl. But what I'm looking for is this edge to be completely curled in when I'm done. And then I'll go back and define this edge, and that's really the pouring edge. And you want that nice and sharp. Otherwise, you're going to have it dribble down the front, which is no good for anybody. So generally, I'll do that, wait a few hours and then come back and do that when it's nice and firmed up. So then I take a little coil of clay and put it along this joint. Ideally, you have clay that's very moist, but this is a little bit on the hard side, but that's okay. So then you're going to compress that from the outside into the joint. And you want to do it all the way around. And I do this both aesthetically and functionally, so that it helps that joint there keep it from cracking. Because when you're putting two different things together, one is a slab and one's thrown, it's more apt to crack because things are shrinking in different directions and at different rates. So you really want to spend some time on the joint, getting it as smooth as you can. And again, I'm just going to sort of do the rough outline of it right now. And when things have firmed up a little bit, in an hour or two, I'll come back and really smooth it in. But if I push too much right now, I'm going to deform the inside of the spout. So I'm mostly getting the clay where it needs to be and getting it roughly smoothed in before going on to the next step. And maybe even by the time I've put the handle on, it'll be firm enough to compress a little bit more. So for now, that's good. And then I go back into the inside and make that nice round shape, because I'm sure I've deformed it from the outside. Okay, and then I'm ready to put the handle on. So it's always a little tricky to get it exactly straight across from the spout, but do your best. Sometimes lifting it up and looking down through the spout allows you to get it right in the middle. And then I score an area here for the handle to attach. Make sure you get rid of all the little burrs. And then I take the handle that I already threw, and I cut up and away. And then I use my finger to make a nice fat tab there, which will be how it will attach. And thin the throat out a little bit. Okay, and then I try to do it a little longer than I think I'm gonna need, but I cut down and towards me. So it's up and away and down and towards me. And I do the same thing on the other end. Make this nice tab. I may make this actually shorter, but I'll for now just make sure it's there in case I want it. And kind of look. Yeah, that's not so bad. So maybe I'll cut a tiny bit off the end here, but that's pretty close. And just definitely give yourself the leeway to change it as needed as you go along. Okay, and then you're going to put some slip on top. And this goes right into where you scored it. And I hold it up in the air like this, and then I compress down, starting in the middle, and then going to the edges. And I'm also, notice that my hands are dry, and if they start slipping, you can dry them a little bit, and that helps you really get a better purchase here, because we want a nice connection all the way around. And I like to see this joint. Sometimes people smooth it completely into the piece, but I prefer to see the joint, to see that line. So I'm starting to establish that now as I put it on. And I thin it just a little bit here. And then find the attachment point. Do your best to keep it straight. There's so many things that are moving here that sometimes it's hard to get it on straight. And then once you know where you want it to attach, then you go ahead and score where that attachment is. Get rid of your burrs. And put slip here. And then this gets, like you did at the top, it gets compressed right into the piece. I use my thumb to establish a line at the bottom of the handle here, all the way around. And that's good. And then the last thing I do for the handle is to put another piece here that I kind of make it into a triangle, and it shows right in here nicely, nestles in. And I use my tool to compress that in. And I press it in and up in both directions. So I do want to see a crease here, but I want to fill that in. This is called backfilling. And it does help your your handle from cracking a little bit. And also aesthetically, I think it's better to not see that kind of empty space there. So I go all the way around. So in between, if there's clay sticking to my tool, actually just plunge it right into a ball of clay, and that cleans it off. And that way it won't be getting in your way as you go around. Okay, and so then once you have that established, I use some water to almost re-throw the handle here, or pull the handle rather. So I put water all over it, and I start from the bottom, and I pull up towards the top. And you really have to make sure that there's water everywhere, or there's a sticky spot, and that is hard. So I'm getting rid of any finger marks that may have happened while I put it on. I'm also establishing a line down the center, which I like, a kind of a crisp line there. And I'm also establishing that top curve, which allows your hand to fit right in the top here. So you squeeze and lift, and if you continue to do that, you get a nice shape. So I'm using my fingers almost as a triangle shape. Going up to the top, my thumbs are meeting in the middle. And then I wash off that excess to do the last little bit of shaping. So I go around the bottom here and around the top. And again, this is just sort of the rough outline. I will also go back to the handle as things dry a little bit and compress more this joint, the top joint, make sure that that curve is exactly how I want it. But in general, that's the rough outline of it. And when it's all done, you'll see a few things. This is the crisp line I was talking about. And this really, I use a tool like this with a rounded, I go back and forth like this. And it really creates a crisp line here so that the water wants to go back in instead of spilling out down the bottom of it. And you'll see that this curve, this curl was all the way compressed over, which is just more pleasing. And then you can see as this compresses in, it just becomes part of the body. You don't notice that seam at all. So that's it. Come join us at hilltown6.com. Thanks.